Alright, take a look at this hand. Of all the pieces that we want, we have 2 lands, Sylvan Scrying, Discontinuity to stifle the trigger. Only danger obviously is that we get run over in the early game. Giganta decks are usually either Convoke or Rakdos. This looks like neither, so... Alright, grab our Lotus Field. Really needed a interaction spell this turn, but I guess we have to hope that they don't go 2 nuts next turn, or enchantments of some kind, which obviously would be a lot better if we were playing the Bant version. Nothing like dying on turn 3. Ending volley. So it's kind of weird because they have a black creature and a white creature. They could have discard spells. They could have... It's kind of hard to say with a Abzan version of the deck. So I think we just bring in the 2 running volleys for a quicker answer to Light Pause. Let me go down Discontinuity and a big score. Decks like this are always problematic for a deck like ours that's basically not doing anything significant till turn 4. Sand doesn't do anything. Sand at least has a little bit of interaction, so we'll keep it, but it's not the most ideal. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, of course. So if there is a game 3, we'll probably bring in Ley Lines just to shut down the discard spell angle. Okay, up the Beanstalk, at least gives us something to do this turn. Their deck is so awkward to play against. Running volley, the 1 card that could interact doesn't interact with their green creatures. So Okay. Mm-hmm. Draw the land in the wrong order. I wonder what was in their hand, that they were an enchantment deck not playing enchantments. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And cut one big score. Not really sold on Teferi, Master of Time, but really feel like we needed a 4-mana Planeswalker. And I just don't know that Torch of Defiance is quite good enough. So I mean, we have this set up for like turn 4 burn down the house, but it just doesn't feel quite good enough. Keep this hand, put back one of the copies of burn down the house. Mm-hmm. Okay, Chandra, card do you take? Take Brotherhood then. That's mm-hmm. Pass. I think we'll draw both of those. Okay. And point scoops. Nice. Okay, match 2. We're paired up against My Little Pony, and no, I'm not kidding. Alright, so we have Discontinuity and Lotus Field. I think that's good enough. There's the, I forget what the event is called. Some type of support outreach that Wizards does that, opponent with, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a rough go. Okay, opponent with a quick rogue start, so this, Discontinuity. So we at least get to set up our engine, but I don't know. Unless their opponent taps out again this turn, which I doubt they'd do. We're going to be able to resolve anything of note. So 6 mana. 8 cards in graveyard, so no matter what, they're going to be able to counter if they have Drowning Lock, so we'll just go with Chandra. Probably like the one of the nightmare matchups along with decks like Spirits. How many counters do you have? Apparently you don't consider that one worth countering. I think on that note, we're just going to concede. Alright, Running Volley hits some of the rogues. Fiscal Dispute's decent. Rogues, despite having access to black, doesn't usually. How is their milling worded exactly? Thieves. Each opponent. Okay. So late line doesn't do anything. We'd really want to ideally get rid of the cards in our graveyard, not theirs, so that doesn't do much. So these are out. This only hits green or red things, so rid of a couple big scores because our opponents can easily counter them, and then we get our down 2 cards. Some of our clunkier stuff. mana in this hand just doesn't quite line up. This hand is risky but has decent enough upside, so we'll try it. Go ahead and foretell that. It's obviously got the Thieves Guild Enforcer here. Yep, they have like the perfect start both games. Kind of hard to combat that. Get to wipe their board. We'll see if that buys us enough time. Okay, that's kind of annoying. It's faced with this weird situation where they have to counter a bunch of mediocre draw cards. Looks like they're out of counters. So let's put that as a land. Our third Blood Sun, because why not? Resolves and then dies. Alright, so we're able to steal game 2 against one of the more tricky matchups because of their tempo-based plan. So somebody in one of the other videos was kind of critiquing that I don't mention when I know how to play a deck or don't know how to play a deck. A lot of this is experimental. This is based off of the Bant deck that we worked on. Wanting to see if Up the Beanstalk and such was playable enough. This hand's just kind of... It's really got some clunk here, so is it better to go to 5? This hand needs a land off the top to be functional, but I think, given how low we are on resources already, we just go ahead and keep it, hope and pray that we draw land. I should have been more specific. A non-Lotus Field land. Opponent with the same start every game. Thieves Guild Enforcer into Soaring Thought Thief. Game over. And we can shock this in, kill Soaring Thought Thief, go to 4, and then die to Thieves Guild Enforcer plus Mutavault. So I think we just stumbled too much with our mulligans. And that's one of the things with this deck, is it, with the engine pieces and stuff that it has in place, it's a little bit more vulnerable to kind of awkward hands, when especially when you're trying to mulligan to find a keepable hand. Alright, so the hand's got most of what we want. We really need a third land, but I think we have enough interaction to buy us the time we need to get there, so... Possible I should have shocked that in to hold up Fire Impulse against what looks to possibly be Spirits. But for now, I'll just do this. Let's get a Lotus Field. Sure. Board. Okay, so that's... Oh, let's make sure we play Blood Sun first. And play that. Just go ahead and Fire Impulse this while they're tapped out. What land are we getting here? Let's go and cycle this Triome. And our Spirits Pond Scoops. Ending Volley and Mystical Dispute come in. Big score can probably go out. One Discontinuity, one up the Beanstalk. So, one thing I forgot when I was building this list is things like the castles. Garenbrig wouldn't make much sense. Castle Vantris working its way into the mana base makes a lot of sense. And obviously Castle Emrith is kind of not what this deck is playing towards. So hand is okay. Like, we have Fire Impulse and Behold the Multiverse to try to pull the rest of the hand together. So I think we'll keep it, but it is obviously not 100% the best hand in the world. obviously dangerous to take that damage there, but I want to at least give my opponent the belief that they need to play around some type of interaction. Obviously running volley would be This is why this matchup is tricky, because your removal has to line up correctly, and Fire Impulse just doesn't answer Supreme Phantom, although it answers basically every other creature 1-for-1. Alright, we're dead next turn, so. Okay. On the play, hand with no lands. Put back the Epiphany. See what they try to flash in here. Seiju here. Try to go Rattle Chains into Curious Obsession. Our opponent taps up or something. Okay. Pass, see if they cast something else. They do. Yeah, not exactly ideal. Definitely representing Spellqueller here, so we need to top deck something reasonable. Really don't care if this resolves. In fact, I actively want them to counter it. They have their third rattle chains. We're dead here, but nothing we can do about it. And of course they do. And we die. Alright, so we're back with a quick wrap with Temur turns. Kind of, once again, basing this off of the banned version of Lotus Field Control that we were playing. The idea using Up the Beanstalk as an additional card engine in addition to, you know, Chandra, Hope's Beacon, as well as Behold the Multiverse and Big Score. So the reason we're playing Behold and Big Score over something like Memory Deluge is Chandra's ability copies it, but since Memory Deluge only copies the amount of mana you've paid into it, you'd pay nothing, so you'd get nothing off of the copy. Still might be worth running over some copies of Big Score, but it's something to test in further things. So this deck is experimental. No one that I've seen has worked on the Temur variant. There's barely been anybody that's worked on the Bant variants of the Azorius Lotus Field control decks. So it's experimental. I'm not 100% sure, you know, the proper way to play the deck, if it's viable, you know, how you're supposed to sideboard with it, etc. A lot of my experience is more with the Azorius deck. The strengths of this one, some of the modal cards like Spikefield Hazard and Shatterskull Smashing are potentially a little bit better, so you're playing more of these over playing, you know, more utility lanes like the castles and such. You could certainly make adjustments to the mana base to work those in. In fact, I think the next time around we'll try to work in Castle Vantress just to try to you know, get a little bit more utility with our copies of Sylvan Scrying. Beyond that, the Sylvan Scrying over the copies, or over the 60 card version, you get basically 8 copies of Lotus Field. With this version, you're not looking really to copy Lotus Field with Thespian Stage because you're not really looking to abuse something like Teferi's untap ability. You're just kind of trying to get that mana burst that one copy provides, so you're not as locked in having to play something like Thespian Stage that can be a little bit awkward, which is both a blessing and a curse. Another card we might want to try to work into is a copy of Halt the Storm Giants. Although I don't really think closing is necessarily a problem this deck has, as, you know, Alrund's Epiphany and Burn Down the House both do a pretty good job of closing out the game, especially in conjunction with Chandra. So we're not necessarily lacking win cons, but we do lack kind of a coherent mid game. You know, once again, the tempo decks are a problem. Spirits and Rogues. You know, a lot of your answers are, you know, your sweepers are sorcery speed. Not really much we can do about that. One style of card that would make this deck a little bit better is maybe something like Kozilek's Return if it were legal. But I don't believe Kozilek's Return's been printed into Pioneer yet, or Explorer from Pioneer. So don't know that would help. And besides that, only being killing 2 power, 2 toughness or less, kind of relevant in some situations. Teferi, we never really got to play it much, so I don't know like what 4-mana bridge card we want to play. Like in the Azorius version, you have the Wandering Emperor, which is like kind of like the perfect bridge card. It's early pressure. It's a way to punish your opponent for attacking into things, in addition to playing cards, you know, like Settle the Wreckage or whatever. So it's a good bridge card in theory, but whether it's better than something like Chandra Torch of Defiance, kind of hard to say. But the rest of the deck, you know, seems pretty functional. You know, we played against one who knows matchup and then two difficult ones. Sideboard, you know, we've kind of gone over this before. The ley lines for the Thoughtseize decks: Rakdos midrange, Rakdos sack. Also some other corner case scenarios you can bring in against. Leyline of the Void, you know, good against Phoenix, Greasefang, etc. Running Volley, you know, Spirits, Rogues, Mono White Humans, Greasefang, etc. Ether Gust, way to interact with Mono Green, Mono Red, to name a few. Also pretty reasonable eventually when Lotus Field combo gets printed into the format, being able to set their big combo card back a turn. Mystical Dispute, you know, a lot of the counterspell decks are a problem. This deck is not unlike a deck like Fires that's a bit clunky in those situations. So kind of fighting a good fight with those. That's pretty much the deck. Do I 100% know how to play it yet? No. Am I still developing the deck? Yes. Is it better than the Bant version? I don't know. It does. The win condition's a little bit different. How the deck sets up is similar but different because you're not having to do the double setup. You're only really needing to get the one Lotus Field into play, and then the rest of your deck's pretty much unlocked. So, only time will tell, though, although I do think both decks probably have a very similar match spread. So, kind of remains to be seen how the deck performs. But if you like this kind of Explore content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I hope to see you for our next video.